When I think I know one thing about somebody and then I learn that something completely different is the case. That is so profoundly disorienting, and it can be in a small way or in a large way, but that it's really hard to recover. And, a lot of people cannot recover from that kind of betrayal or dishonesty.
Because it gets that, do I actually know reality? Like if I thought this was bedrock and I find out you're not faithful, then what is real? Hey, change is coming today. It starts today. You're going to change today. God can be a part of that. Welcome to an episode of Talking to Psychologists in Cars.
There we go.
This is our friend Dr. Rick, and we've been working through different character strengths. And the one today is quite challenging, so I'll just tell you that off the top. And it's honesty. To be truthful.
Honesty.
You like the word real.
Real. I really like that word.
Yeah. Christian Miller, who's a philosopher at Wake Forest, and we've talked about as part of this series, heads up what's called the Honesty Project. And it's funded by Templeton. You can take a look at the website. It's very interesting. One of the striking things that he writes about is, in his field, philosophy, over a period of 50 years outside of his team, only 2 journal articles were published on the subject
the topic?
Of the virtue of honesty.
Wow.
But the flip side of that is he cites one study in our field in psychology where many respondents were given a list of 60 character traits: creativity, kindness, gentleness, humor, and so. And then they were asked 3 questions. What do you like most in another person? And what do you respect most in another person? And then the third one is, what would you most want to know about somebody else? The number one answer to all 3 questions was honest.
Honesty. Even though there's very little research.
Is this an honest person? So as a clinician, you see people all the time. They tell you maybe the truth about their lives. They tell you about their relationships. How does honesty fit into all that? And why is it so hard for us?
That research piece does resonate with me when I think of, we probably have talked about this before.
I'm going to ask you to pull your head in this way a little bit just so everybody can see.
That intimacy, to me, is a matter of knowing and being known. So it kind of comports with what you just said, that people, and in my practice, I would say the way honesty comes up the most often is in its counterpart, dishonesty. So when people are not truthful, and that's a big theme in relationships, friendships, business teams, marriages. When there's dishonesty, maybe the main way of talking about that would be like an affair, when there's an affair. And I've long felt like the main point of pain when the trust is violated at an extreme level like that, the main point of pain is deception. When I think I know one thing about somebody and then I learn that something completely different is the case, that is so profoundly disorienting, and it can be in a small way or in a large way, but that it's really hard to recover. And a lot of people cannot recover from that kind of betrayal or dishonesty.
Because it gets that, do I actually know reality? Like if I thought this was bedrock and I find out you're not faithful, then what is real?
And to repair that can take it's possible. I have a lot of really wonderful stories, John, being a counselor, of people being able to repair a rift that profound and that deep. But it's the dishonesty, the deception, that is the hardest thing to overcome, and then trying to build practices that enable a relationship to recover from that, which often means sort of micro attention to honesty. Where are you? People will use their phone trackers and that sort of thing to verify, trust and verify. So there's ways of kind of going after that. But, thinking about the forgiveness character trait that you talked about, that's also obviously profound. You have to have a template inside, a capacity to be able to forgive someone for being dishonest. But a real and good relationship, and I think of even my friendship with you, that it's increasingly over the years become more and more real. Not that it was dishonest, but the more real, the more honest. And I suppose if I think about that honesty in relationship, especially around flaws,
Yeah.
and problem characteristics,
Yep.
it's endearing. It makes you feel close. It makes me feel close to somebody.
I have to fight a lot because I don't want anybody to think that I have flaws. Or
did I just let some cat out of the bag here?
Darn.
Sorry.
Pay no attention to the man behind the screen. I was thinking as you were talking, as Christian Miller describes an honest person, it's very challenging. He says it's different. Doing an honest act is different than being an honest person. If a shopkeeper doesn't cheat their customers on prices when they could, but the reason that they're doing it is because they think they might lose business, that's not the mark of a truly honest person. So it's not just doing the honest thing, it's doing it for a good reason.
For the right reason.
And then he also says, this is so interesting to me, this gets to what you were saying, an honest person isn't just somebody who is honest to another person. They seek to be honest with themselves. And so they constantly step back and say, what do I believe? What do I think is true? And does it measure up? So, for instance, with faith, I can think about growing up where faith was a strong value of people that might say, I'm not going to read that book because I'm afraid if I read it, it would damage my faith. And what that says then really is I'm not fully committed to the truth. Because I'm afraid if I really found out the truth, then I would have to change my mind about something. And I don't want to have to change my mind. So I'm not going to look at the truth. So honesty doesn't even begin really, he says, with other people. It begins looking at myself.
Yes. And I'm sad to say, even in therapy, even in counseling, people often take a long time. And obviously that's going to lead to truth and lead to growth, to be honest with yourself to start with. But that sometimes is, you were telling me, we were talking a little bit earlier about the 4 ways of being dishonest. Remind me what those were. Misleading was one.
Yeah,
that was so interesting to
He
me.
has 5 categories.
5 categories.
One of them is when you lie. That's pretty obvious.
Straight lying.
But another one is misleading. Yep, I went bowling with the guys tonight. And that may be true, but I might have done something else where I'm not actually telling a lie, but I'm not telling the whole truth.
Yeah.
So then it's possible to mislead.
I read that book.
Yeah. Yep.
I know that book.
Or just you kind of nod and,
Yeah.
It could just be, I've seen that book. Stealing. Somebody is going and I take the food from their plate, to take a small example.
Yeah.
Honoring somebody's property. Cheating. And very painful for me is just thinking in the past on a test in school or playing tennis where I have memories of doing that. It's like, man, I wish I had that to do over again. I know that's not the person that I want to be, but that's in me.
Yeah.
And then honoring promises and
doing what you say you're going to do, what you promise to do.
We were just talking about our oldest child, Laura, is a J on the Myers-Briggs. If you know that, I'm a P. And so what will feel like an idea to me will be a promise to her.
Yeah.
And we just had a conversation about that yesterday because I had said something and then wanted to change it. And it's like, nope, that's not honoring a commitment. I need to do that.
Yeah.
So when people come and see you as clients, how do you know they're telling you the truth?
Well, it's a little humbling to think about that, and almost embarrassing that sometimes people will come, and obviously I'll set the therapy up as this is a place where we roll our shirt sleeves up and say anything, and your job is to not care at all about what I think, but to lay it out as honestly and truthfully as you possibly can. So that's a well-practiced speech with me. But I had a case recently where somebody, it turns out, had an affair right in the middle of the counseling with his wife. And I didn't know it, and I've ultimately learned it. And, I have kind of a thought that the truth will eventually come out and that it generally gets out and that propels the work. And I can tell you experientially, when people are dishonest and then the truth comes out, the growth happens much more rapidly and much more profoundly.
It's very interesting. Again, Christian Miller, the Honesty Project, finds when it comes to honesty, what's true with other character issues also, which is the basic question, how good is our character? The basic answer is not very good.
Yeah.
And for example, if people have to solve math problems and then they're able to cheat and get away with it, their scores got almost twice as good.
Well, that's
or
convicting, but wow.
with a coin flip, if they get a little reward every time it comes up heads, and they could cheat and get away with it, 63% of the time it comes up heads. And if they're warned, please be honest, it's 62%.
Oh my God.
So the point is, we usually don't tell lies that are so outrageous that we'd have to think of ourselves as liars.
Yeah.
Remember the old Jim Carrey movie, Liar, Liar?
Liar, liar. Yeah. That was a great movie.
But I'm willing to stretch it enough if I get away with it. And that's most of us. Most of us are not deeply honest.
Yeah.
So one thought, what's one thing somebody could do today that's watching this to help them grow in the direction of honesty?
My first thought
Yeah.
is think of something that someone close to you needs to hear. And tell them something that's true and helpful, but probably not something that they want to hear. And I know everybody listening has somebody in their life that they could do that with.
Yeah.
Just to practice. This would be one of those character things that if we're not naturally that honest, and that is just all that research that it's frightening in a way, but I know it's true.
No, it's really,
I know it's true, and
great,
it's convicting.
Great suggestion.
So
Nancy, I'll be home in a few minutes. No, that was a lie. That was a lie. Change is coming today.
Hi friends, Tim here. I'm the producer at Become New. Before you leave, you can subscribe to this channel, like this video, or what we'd really like you to do is to comment on the video. We read those comments every day and love to hear from you. If you'd like to receive the email that goes along with each video or a text reminder when a new video is aired, you can let us know at becomenew.com/subscribe. If you have a prayer request, there's a group of us that meet every weekday, Monday through Friday, to pray over requests that are sent in from viewers and listeners just like yourself. So you can text us that prayer request at the number 855-888